Hello, hello, everyone. Greetings and good evening. It's Stephanie Outen, and welcome to Storytime with Stephanie. This is a platform where I love to interview authors, be able to allow them to share about who they are, what they've written, and be able to share what it is that they have upcoming. So if you are an author and you'd love an opportunity to be on Storytime with Stephanie, definitely send us an email to info at stephanieouten.com, info at stephanieouten.com, so that you can be a part of our show. So tonight I am super excited to have with me Calvin Reynolds. Calvin is an author, an illustrator for children's books, and he is a phenomenal, inspirational man who actually is a part of my team at Cocoon to Wings Publishing. He is the in-house illustrator for all of our children's books. And tonight, I'm so excited to have him to share about his books, the messages that he has, not just for children, but for adults as well, and just all of the great things that he has coming up next. So, everyone, welcome to the show, Calvin Reynolds.
Hello. Hey,
Hello,
Steph.
Calvin. How you doing?
All right. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's good to have you.
Thank
So,
you.
I shared at the very top of the show that you are a children's book author and illustrator. So, tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into writing children's books, your background as an illustrator, so that the audience knows a little bit more about you.
Right. Well, I'm originally from Pompano Beach, Florida. I've lived in the Tampa Bay area for the last 24, 25 years. I've actually, been an artist pretty much all my life. I started drawing and telling stories when I was a kid in the third grade. And my love for the arts, pretty much led me until high school. In high school, I was crazy about sports and kind of integrated the two, arts and sports. And yeah, it kind of just grew from there. From graduation, I went to Ringling College of Art and Design over in Sarasota,
Okay.
and honed my skills even more as an artist. And from there, I worked over in Bradenton for a small company. Well, not a small company, but for a sportswear company over in Bradenton, Florida. Worked there for like a year, and then from there, I've been in Tampa. Worked at a Fortune 500 company there, here for the last 23 years, somewhat. And yeah, kind of back in 2013 is where I really wanted to branch out and reach back to what I was doing when I was younger, which was creating characters and telling my own stories, and wanted to create stories that resonated with everyone, especially children.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I've been doing that ever since
Awesome.
2013.
Awesome. All right. And so you are the creator of the Jace the Bee series,
Yes.
which is wildly popular. Kids and adults love the Jace the Bee series. And you've also written Harold Gets an F, which
Yes.
was a different take. You strayed away from
Yeah.
the whole Jace the Bee theme, but then you got back to it with Time to Shine. So let's talk a little bit about the Jace the Bee series. I know you have some of the books, you can share them with us, but also what are some of the themes and the messages that you share in the Jace the Bee series? Because what I love is that Jace the Bee, while it is a bee and while it is for children, the messages transcend children, right? The
Yeah.
messages can be for anyone. So tell us a little bit about that series and what brought you to the place of even writing that character.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that. What brought me to the place, it was more of, coming home from work and, looking at my children and kind of sharing the same experiences that they were having in their schools at the time. Jace is a character that I created to help kids understand the importance of believing in themselves. His name is an acronym for Just Accepting Yourself Changes Everything. And he's a little bee that's different from all of his friends, so he struggles with self esteem, and but the one thing that makes him unique is the thing that makes him a hero, which is courage. The courage to believe that he can achieve more than what or reach his potential. So yeah, that's the overall message with Jace. The first story was released back in 2015, which is Jace, A Bee Adventure. And that was just more of an introduction to the character and the characters of that universe. Um, the overall message in that story was, self-esteem, overcoming obstacles, teamwork, and most definitely believing in yourself. Shortly after that, that book itself was a journey for me as a children's book author. There was a lot of things I had to learn as far as from writing, and even from an illustration standpoint. I had gotten so far away from just drawing that I was fortunate enough to work with so many talented artists that I was able to produce that book. And I tell you, just thinking back on it, I thought I was just going to do that one book and I was going to be done.
Yeah.
But a year and a half later, I was like, yeah, I got to do another one, because of the feedback was so overwhelming. I was getting a lot of feedback from kids and teachers and parents. So each book progressively got better from an illustration standpoint and from a literary standpoint. So
and let me ask you this really quick, going back, because you talked about the theme overall about Jace is courage, right? And then you talk about self-esteem. So when we think about, as authors, the books that we write, regardless of whether they're children's books or books for adults, a lot of times the messages and the themes, they relate to things that we're walking through, right?
Absolutely.
They relate to things that are happening around us. And so I know you have kids and you mentioned that, you saw your kids kind of going through some of these things, but what were some of the points for you too, where you may have struggled with that courage to step out and say, this is what I'm going to do, or you struggled with self-esteem and believing that you were actually good enough to write these stories, good enough to illustrate these stories? Tell us about that part of your journey before you continue on about Jace the Bee.
Well, that journey definitely started with my journey in corporate, my corporate journey, where, being in such a highly competitive, fast-paced department, you kind of are always challenged with those things. And I know for me, sometimes it was being misunderstood. My passion, I think, sometimes is misunderstood, and maybe not feeling appreciated. As far as the work ethic, the expertise, things of that nature. Feeling unappreciated, those things play a part of your self-esteem. And, if you're constantly being drained of your, confidence, you have to make a decision. You have to decide, hey, what can I do to bring some type of substance to my thought process, to my well-being? Yeah. And for me, it was just, I wanted to create something that, I could, you hear people say, I wanted to do this for my legacy. That played a part, but I also wanted to think bigger than myself. Again, I take this journey as an artist extremely serious, and as you know,
yes.
And so it's more than just creating something. It's more than that. It's more about how can I touch other people? How can I get a response in a way where I can encourage or inspire people with my message or my art. And I don't know if I was necessarily being fulfilled in that way. I was creating a lot of art, seeing a lot of my art everywhere, but I wasn't attached to that.
Yeah.
Whereas, when I created Jace and I saw and felt the reaction as an artist, that just fuels you. That just, oh my goodness. There's not, my first book signing event was an experience that I will never forget. Yeah. And so, it was those type of moments for me that kind of helped me realize, I need to step out and do something a little different.
Yeah, you said something so key about how, you were creating things, but your name wasn't attached to it. And I think even as a creative, right, those of us who are creative in any way, whether it's through book writing, whether it's through art, whatever your creative space is, when you put something out into the atmosphere, you want to be able to be acknowledged for that, right? You want people to know that this was your creation, because being creative is challenging, right? Yes. But also very rewarding. And so now the place where you are, and like everybody knows your name, right? And they know that this beautiful work that you create through your illustrations, and we can see them for those who are watching on live, we can see some of those creations behind you. And even some of the work that all of the work that you've done with Cocoon Twins Publishing, it's been phenomenal just to be able to see your name attached to so much beauty and so much creativity. And so I'm sure those in corporate America who lost you, right, to this space that you're in now, they're probably saying, dang, what could we have done to keep him? Yeah, because you really have done a tremendous job with the work that you've done. And, I say that just from seeing your work. And even when we first were introduced to each other, 2019 at the Tampa Bay Black Authors Expo, which was the first time that we met. And I just was like, okay, I got to take this chance and go over here and talk to this man about his illustrations, even though I didn't do children's books at the time. And I'm like, what in the world? I don't know why I'm being led over here to talk to him, but it's important, right? And it was in my spirit. God said, go talk to him. And these couple of years later, we've been able to produce some great works. But I want you to continue on and tell us more about the Jace to Be series and the additional messages and themes that kids and adults can learn from the additional books in the series.
Before I answer that question, I'd like to say one thing, Steph. I do want to give credit to my experience in the family I had at that point in time in the corporate world. It was that experience that helped groom me as for the things you see today. I use that experience to definitely hone my skills and learn how to become a better artist. So I don't want to, take away any of that experience, because that experience is part of who I am today. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We all of us that have been in corporate, and I spent a whole lot of years in corporate, not in any way doing what I do today. I spent 22 years in human resources, right? And then dabbled in a whole bunch of other things between that time. But those corporate experiences, they actually do teach us quite a bit. Yes. One, about who we are, what we can withstand, and what it is that we really desire. Because a lot of times being in corporate, when we do recognize that, hey, I might not be 100% fulfilling my purpose, when we step outside of corporate, we take all those experiences with us to be able to now step into this place of entrepreneurship, because that's what you are, right? You're an entrepreneur doing this thing solo, but we're able to take all of that with us and be able to say, now here's what I learned from corporate. Now I can apply it to what I do, and I can do it at a different level now because I'm working for a different being, right?
Absolutely.
I know, we work for the Lord, and so we know everything that comes forward for us is because of what he's imparted into us. And I know that you put that into your work as well. So let's talk a little bit more about Jace and some of the additional themes that you share in the books.
Okay, well, I think in 2017, I came back with my second Jace to Be story, which is Jace to Be Journey to the Polka Dot Village. And just hold that up. I don't know if you guys can see it.
Yes.
But for those that have this book, I felt like this was a great opportunity to address some of the not concerns, but some of the things that some of the fans wanted to see. A lot of the female fans wanted to see more of Lily, which is the ladybug in the story. So I thought that would be a good idea, especially my daughter. My daughter's like, Dad, you need to do Lily, do something more about Lily. And so I wanted to tie that in, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to address diversity in a way that, Jace is my universal character.
Yes.
No matter what walk in life, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, Jace is a character that I created that everyone can identify with. But also, I wanted to address the concerns about diversity in a way that kids can understand, and it's not too hard for them to miss the message. And so, Journey to the Polka Dot Village, and it was received extremely well. It was one of my favorites. And again, you progressively see the art getting better and better along with the writing.
Yes.
So the third book, again, I thought I only set out to do one book. And so here we are, the third book, Jace to Be Mayhem and Beatopia, which is my personal favorite. This is just a great story about forgiveness. Again, taking each story and using it as an opportunity to present the children some of the life challenges that they're going to need you know, to be decent people. You know,
Yes.
these stories have a moral foundation, and there's a lot of stuff out there not right now that our kids are being kind of fed, where there's a lot of adult content, you know, laced in
Mm-hmm.
to the children's stories.
Yes.
So I want to just go back to the basis for me and my stories, and you know, touch base, give them an entertaining story, but also have something that's, you know, that has a great message. So
Yeah.
Mayhem and Betopia is definitely a story about forgiveness and making good decisions.
I love that. And you all who follow the show know that forgiveness is one of the biggest topics that I talk about, right? Because we always talk about a lot of those soul wounds and those inner challenges that we've experienced that put us in a place of unforgiveness. And so to be able to teach kids at an early age about what forgiveness looks like is so meaningful so that they don't grow up to be embittered adults, right? Holding
Yeah,
on to grudges, not being able to forgive people. So I love the fact that you give children insight into what forgiveness looks like through Jace the Bee. All
thank you.
right. So book 4. Oh
Okay,
my God.
book four. Book four is The Great Biathlon. Now,
Mhm.
this is a great story, and it's funny. Each book, you know, represents a certain part in time in my life. Um, the Great Biathlon was definitely something that I noticed uh, in my professional life with other artists that I've. And again, I have the pleasure of working with so many creative people. Um, Jace is in this story. Jace is faced with sportsmanship, and what does that look like when there's another bee that lives in the same colony with you? There's no real antagonist, but that bee will do anything to win. And
Mm.
I think that's a concern that a lot of us parents are trying to uh, instill in our kids. There's a right way, you know, to
Mhm.
win, and
Mhm.
uh, and so sportsmanship is something that I felt, again, it was another opportunity to present that to kids at a young age. What does that look like when you're dealing with another kid that may do anything to win? That's not the necessarily right way to go about winning. So it's a
Right.
great message, great story, and get a chance to check it out. Yeah,
Yeah. There's such a thing as healthy competition, right?
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
true sportsmanship. And I think being able to teach kids that at a young age helps
Yeah,
them not to grow up to be adults who are always, it's like those crabs in the barrel, always trying to pull other people
yeah,
down because you feel
yeah,
like, oh, they have what I want. No,
yeah.
right? We all are gifted and talented in our own ways. And if we're able to really step out and focus on what it is that we're supposed to do, we don't have to compete because
Absolutely.
there's no competition in the spirit, right? So that's what the
Absolutely.
focus is. And I saw a comment from Johnny Johnson earlier. You stepped out on you stepped out on you to secure your faith in God and had the courage to believe in what you had in you. Thank you. So that was directed to you,
Thank
that
you.
you stepped out in faith and courage to do what you want to do. And that's a message for kids too, right? And we see because you have a teenager, right? And you have like a preteen as well. So
Yeah.
you're in a space as a father where you're able to teach your kids early about how you can step out on faith. If there's something that is in you to do and you want to be able to do it, it's okay to have that courage and that belief in yourself, right? To step out and to truly believe in yourself, not worry about validation from others, just
Right.
validate yourself, knowing that you can do what it is you've been called to do.
Right.
So which book does
Which
that lead
again
us to?
goes back to his name, Jace.
Just
Just
accepting
accepting
yourself
yourself changes everything.
changes everything.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be that's an ideal world, right, Calvin? For everybody to just
Yeah.
accept themselves and not try to be like somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Right.
think, internally, I think at some point we all kind of faced with that,
Mm-hmm.
and so again, creating something that can resonate with not just kids, but even adults, and have
Absolutely.
that universal message, bundled up nicely, even as an acronym into that character's name. So yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So what book are we going to next?
Well, I think after that is Time to Shine.
Okay. So I have a story. I have a story about Time to Shine. And because Time to Shine is about Firefly. And when I was a kid, so when Calvin was telling me about this story and he told me it was a firefly, it literally took me back to childhood. And I remember I grew up in Brooklyn, and I remember we used to go outside when it was super dark, and we would pray that the lights would go out, right? Because we didn't want any street lights, just so we could see those fireflies. But we would go and we would catch them, and we would put them in jars, and we would tie the jar really tight, and we go to the darkest place we could find so we could watch those fireflies glow. And I remember being a kid and thinking, oh my God, like, what does that feel like to really just be able to glow, to shine, right? And so how many times, though, as kids, does that light get snuffed out of us, right?
Exactly.
And then even as adults, the light gets snuffed out of us. And so we can't even find it in ourselves to be able to glow. And sometimes it takes another person coming into your path to be able to help you find your glow again.
Yeah.
And that's what Time to Shine is all about. So Calvin knows this is my all-time favorite book of the JB series because of how meaningful it was for me to realize that it's time to shine. It's time to shine. It's okay to glow again. It's okay to, go back to those past places when people told you you were not enough. People said that you could not do this, right? And break free from all of that so that your light can shine again. Because when your light shines, you create the path, you illuminate the path for so many other people. So that was my story about Time to Shine. Tell me your story of Time to Shine and why you chose to write the book.
Well, I want to start by saying, the ideal itself, I got to give kudos to the wife. The ideal itself was planted in my head by her. They saw some fireflies and was like, she'll do another story about Jason fireflies. Yeah. And so I thought that was a great idea. So, of course, I went to work. Time to Shine, this is my proof of it. It's already available. Yeah. But Time to Shine, again, is addressing reaching your potential. Mm-hmm. Here's a young firefly that's, again, struggling with self-esteem. She's not fitting in with all the other fireflies because she's having a hard time lighting up. She can't, And so Jace is, he's the hero in all of these stories. But he's, there's a character in these stories. He's a cricket. His name is Mr. Cricks. And he's the wise character in these stories. And so in this story, Jace kind of takes the back seat, and you can see his maturity by becoming the hero, by encouraging someone to reach their potential, right? So I think, I wanted to, again, take the opportunity to show an intangible what that looks like. What does it look like when we encourage someone to reach their potential? And it's one of my favorites as well. And if you get an opportunity, people out there, check it out. Jace the B, Time to Shine. I think, Stephanie, you said a handful there, a mouthful, when you just pretty much put it out there, how the story resonated with you. Yeah. So hopefully it resonates with everyone the same way.
Absolutely. I think it will. So you actually can find, and those of you watching, you can see the purchase link for where to get all Calvin's books, jacethebee.com. That's Jace, JayceTheBee.com. Jacethebee.com is where you can find all of his fabulous work, all of his books that he has authored, illustrated. And so you strayed away from the Jace the Bee series, and you ended up doing a book called Harold Gets an F. And that one raised a lot of eyebrows.
Yes, it did.
So first tell us, why did you decide to kind of stray away from Jace the Bee? And then what in the world, how did you get this idea for Harold Gets an F?
I think honestly, God put that one in my head, in my heart. We were working on a project at that time, and I don't know if you remember, I was like, I got to do this story.
Yeah.
I just happened to be out, and 2020 was a crazy year for a lot of parents and teachers. Kudos to all the teachers out there that made it through 2020. But a lot of kids being at home, homeschooled, it was a challenge. It was a challenge. And that challenge was for a lot of kids to understand the importance of time management. Because again, when you're at home, you got all these things going on, and school maybe sometimes can become a secondary, can become a secondary thing. And so again, it was more about how can I showcase to kids what it looks like when you put other things in front of your education. So, each page is Harold, and Harold's a smart kid. He's a very smart kid, and he knows he has a test coming up. And again, he takes it for granted, and he chooses to play video games. He chooses to go outside and play with his friends, play with his toys, everything except prepare for his big test coming up on Friday. And, the gist of it was just to try to get people to understand that shock, that impact of what it was like when you received your first failing grade, or what that felt like. And that was a fork in the road. That's a fork in the road for a lot of us. Yeah. What do? Do you understand why that happened? Yeah. Or do you just kind of just brush it off and continue to allow it to happen? And so that book has been doing extremely well with schools, teachers and parents and kids alike. So the cover was controversial. Because
show them the cover. It's right behind you, but they can see. Harold gets an F, and the F is so big, and it's in a big old circle.
Yeah, big old F. And normally you see on kids' books, kids' stories, there's a big A. Oh, awesome! Such and such made an A. But I wanted to, use that, be innovative, and come at it at a different angle. There's a big F, and he's, kids tend to have that look. I don't know why. Why did this happen? Right? When kids, kind of do something, they're like, I don't know why that happened. Well, you didn't prepare. This is why you got a big fat F. So there's a great message in the story.
Yes.
At the end of the story, and I don't want to spoil it. Right. But it's a great story. And the rewarding thing is when I hear parents, they'll come back and they'll leave a comment, or they'll tell me, give me some feedback, and they'll say, hey, I always say, don't be like Harold. Remember what happened to Harold?
Yes.
And kids can identify with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Harold may be back. He may be back. I'm getting a lot of feedback. I may have to, but I'm waiting on. I'm some things when you're writing, you don't know what you want to write about, and that's writer's block. And some things just come to you, and I'm waiting for the Lord to just, okay, here's going to be Harold's next thing. So I've been thinking about it, but I know it'll come.
It will. And I know when you first shared the story with me, I was like, oh my God, this kid, Harold. I was like, Harold, if you don't sit down somewhere and study, if you don't sit down and prepare for that test, but having an intricate part in well, they're now teens, but my niece and nephew's life, and I sit and I watch them too, and I'm like, at what point are they gonna study? At what point are they gonna prepare? Like, you've been on these video games and you've been on this phone all day, and I know you have a test tomorrow. At what point are you gonna prepare for that, right? And so
there's a time to work and there's a time to play.
And that's exactly the message on the front of Harold. There's a time to work and there's a time to play, right? And as children, right, they have to learn that early, because even as adults, there's a time to work and there's a time to play for us as well, right? And teaching your kids that early allows them to get to that place of understanding what's priority, what's important, right? And because I'll share, one time in my whole life, I got an F. And that thing devastated me, okay? And it was not in a class that made any sense, because it was in PE. Who gets an F in PE?
Right. Yeah.
But still, it was a wake. And it was actually because I was sick for so long, I could not go to class. And so I ended up failing the class. But it was still a wake-up call for me, right? To be able to persevere through anything, right? So even if I was sick, I was going to be in class, because I wanted to make sure, as long as I wasn't contagious, I got my work done. I did what I needed to do, because I never ever wanted to see that big fat red F ever again on my
Yeah,
papers or
yeah.
on my report card, because it's devastating.
Yeah, that initial moment when you fail,
Yeah,
right? It's again, it's a fork in the road moment that we all, again, trying to find stories that we can all resonate with, not just
yeah,
for kids, but even adults that, find entertainment in these stories. So
absolutely.
I did go a different route with the art. I was
Hmm.
again stepping out of my comfort zone, trying a different look, simple shapes,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was received well. So
Yeah, very well. And I'll share this too, that Calvin is available for booking. So if you are in the school system and you want to be able to have Calvin to talk with your kids, especially about the Jace the Bee series, Harold Gets an F, jacethebee.com, so that you can go and you can contact him to schedule bookings, have him come. He'll do virtual, talks with the kids. He can come in person when they're allowing for people to come in person to talk to the kids. So definitely touch base with him, because he has done that on several occasions. And if you work in the school systems and you know that his books need to be in the school systems, please contact him, because so many times, and I'll be honest, books by African American authors are underrepresented in the school systems. And so the works that he's created, to see Jace to be as a universal character, but even Harold as, an African American child, to be able to see these in the school system, kids need to see that, right? Kids need the messages that are in Jace the Bee, and kids who look like us need to be able to see themselves represented in Harold as well. So definitely make sure you contact Calvin to be able to have him come out and speak in your school systems, because the messages, as you've heard him talk about just in these few moments that we've been talking, the messages are so powerful and kids need to hear them. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and people are still commenting. So come on in, comment. Well, I'm going to switch gears and talk a little bit more about the work that you do with Cocoon Twins Publishing, the illustrations. Tell us just how you work, because I'm always fascinated when I see the illustrations coming through. I'm like, man, this is like masterful, because I can't draw a stick figure, right? So tell us a little bit about that process that you use, so that people understand the difference between graphic design, illustrations, so that when they want to do their own, children's book, and they're designing for an illustrator at the higher level as yourself, what it is that they should be looking for.
well, first, how I work is pretty much traditional, where I'll do sketches, right? I have the benefit of working in such a fast-paced art department for so many years.
Mhm.
Uh, and again, not only that, but just knowing and working with so many creative people that I was constantly a sponge. For 20 years, I was literally almost in school, but making a wage. That was my thought process.
Mhm.
So, even doing this stuff sometimes, um, I work extremely different from a lot of artists. However, the goal for me has always been to be unique and not, uh, again, do me. I'm
Yes.
not trying to look like any other artist. I'm not trying to compete with any other artist.
Mm.
My look is a look that has its own flavor and own it has its own um, feel to it.
Yeah.
It has its own look. Um, there's a lot there that um, sometimes I look at my stuff and I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
I'm probably one of the most humble artists you may meet.
You are.
'Cause again, I'm just a small fish in a big pond of creative people out here. But again, I'm just thankful that people are receiving my art a certain way.
Mhm.
As far as graphic design, cell shade look is definitely a trending popular look, more like comic books. And I think my art is more in between comic books and painting,
Mhm.
right? 'Cause I like to uh, use a lot of halftones and gradients and shading. Um, whereas graphic designers are definitely talented people. I'm a graphic designer. I'm an illustrator first, whereas graphic designers, they definitely tend to nail it more when it comes to picking out type, fonts, shapes. Again, I've just been blessed to work around so many other artists, so I was able to pick up a lot of graphic design skills and integrate those things with my illustration skills. Because I'm an illustrator. You know, I graduated. My BFA is in illustration. Again, I'm an illustrator / graphic designer. So yeah. So my look with Jace and my children's books. Again, I start off with sketches. There was once a time I would draw on paper a lot, but now I draw directly on the computer. So my stuff is very digital. I use a lot of digital aspects. Photoshop, Illustrator are the main programs that I stick with. Procreate is something that a lot of artists are playing with and experimenting with. I haven't gotten there yet, so I've tried Procreate, just not my thing. So I stick with what I know best and thing I've been working with for many, many years, which is Photoshop and Illustrator. So
okay, awesome. Well, you all heard me say at the top of the show too that Calvin is our in-house illustrator for Cocoon's Wings Publishing, and so all of the amazing children's books that you've seen come out of CTWP have been Calvin's work. And so it's been inspiring to see so many children's book authors to be able to see their works come to life through your hands. You know, I never in a million years thought I'd be publishing children's books, but having you on the team has allowed us to have so much success in that area. And so I'm so grateful that God allowed our paths to cross in 2019.
Absolutely.
And for all of the authors who've been able to have their works in their hands, to be able to see the beauty that you create from their stories. And I'm so, you know, just honored for you to be a part of the team. And I see Monica Fortson, she was one of our previous guests, but she's also one of our authors, our children's book authors. She said, such a blessing, such a blessing. I saw another comment before from Johnny. She said, we need the books also to be in churches. Absolutely. For our young kids to be able to really hit anywhere that kids are, the books need to be there. That's what I say. Anywhere that kids are, the books need to be there because of the powerful messages that are conveyed. And so before we end up wrapping up the show, I want you to just share some inspirational words, just some motivation for those out there who have the desire to step out in faith like you did, to begin to do what it is that they desire to do. You know, how they can maybe build up that courage level to step out and do that. And then how can they, you know, really just discover their passion like you did. You reached back into something that you did as a child and now have turned it into a profession. So what motivational message do you want to share with those out there listening?
I would definitely say, you know, stay true to yourself as it relates to what your gift is, right? And don't give up. I think a lot of times we all have a story to tell. So I would say just follow your instinct and make time to invest in yourself. I think in 2021, I think you got to have a side hustle. I mean, honestly, I hate to say it that way, unless you're making six figures or, you know, you're in the hundreds. I think it's important to kind of make time to invest in yourself. It was tough for me when I first started writing. There was times I didn't think I was ever going to get that first book complete. You know, it was difficult.
Yeah.
You know, I was working 10-hour days, you know, and then again, my priority was my job at that time, you know, so, you know, never wanted to confuse the two, you know, but for me, it was working those long hours, being a father, being a husband, but still everyone's going to sleep. I'm up, you know, I'm up working on my Jace books. And there would be times where I would be up 3-4 o'clock in the morning and have to turn right back around, wake up at 6, help get the kids dressed and off to work. So those are the sacrifices that any dream you're going to have to follow, any dream you choose to follow is going to require you to sacrifice something. And I would also like to say for any aspiring authors that want to do children's book, don't try not to cheat yourself. Like your dream and your vision is going to cost you something. You may have to cut back on some luxuries or whatnot, but work with someone or an illustrator that you trust, and don't let cost stop you from investing in your dream, because it's your dream, no one else's.
That right there is so key. And I think what happens sometimes is we're afraid to invest in our own dreams, but we'll invest in everyone else's. Right? When we go and we spend hundreds or thousands, whatever, on, what a pocketbook or some shoes or whatever it is that we love, those luxuries, we think it's okay, but we don't realize we're investing in someone else's dream. But when it comes to our own and we see a price tag, we think, oh no, I can't spend that kind of money on it, because somewhere in us, we don't feel like we are worth it. But what I love is you said it without saying it. You are worth it. We are worth it, right? When we have a dream, there's always the provision for our dream, right? And so being able to say, where is that provision? When you ask, you begin to receive. And so do not allow yourself to sit on a dream because financially it doesn't seem feasible. Be willing to invest yourself, and you will recognize that finances will start to come from the north, the south, the east, and the west to be able to help you fulfill that dream that you have. Monica says, yes, the investment in an illustrator makes or breaks your project and vision. Absolutely. So don't be afraid to invest in yourself, because the payoff is going to be so worth it when you have a book that you can literally sit up next to another one and say, wow, look at this creation that has my name on it. So thank you for saying that. Thank you for helping me understand.
You may have to cut back. I mean, you may have to wait, right? You may have to put it on the shelf until you're able to do it right. But do it right. Don't shortcut yourself,
Do it right the first time.
Do it right the first time.
Do it right the first time.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I saw some other questions coming in, but I think I may have caught them. I wanted to thank you so much, Calvin, for helping me to close out season 1 of Storytime with Stephanie. This has been an amazing journey. We'll be coming back for season 2 on August the 16th. So we're not going to be gone very long, but I just, needed to take a little bit of a break. And so we'll be coming back for season 2 on August the 16th. So definitely continue to follow us, continue to share with us your experience with Storytime with Stephanie. Be sure to check out Calvin's website, jaycethebee.com, JAYCETHEBEE.com, so that you can purchase his books. All of his books are available on his website. Go ahead, Calvin. What were you going to say?
I forgot to mention the Jace the Bee Honey Jump game. I always forget to plug that. It's on Apple Store. Honey Jump, Jace the Bee Honey Jump. It is a free game. So again, if you're, for me, it was all about trying to speak the language for kids. Kids love digital and they love games. So again, if they love the game, they're going to want to read the books more. So again, that's on Apple App Store, Jace the Bee Honey Jump, and Google Play Store, Jace the Bee Honey Jump.
Excellent. Thank you for plugging that. So see, there's so many ways that your kids can stay connected to Jace the Bee. So thank you for sharing that, Calvin. Definitely follow us, join our mailing list at stephanieouten.com so you can hear more about what we have coming up. I just wanted to thank you all for making this first season a success, making this journey really easy for me. Thank you for the amazing guests that I've had for season 1. And thank you again, Calvin, for closing us out with just your amazing testimony of, your own perseverance, your courage, and recognizing that it was your time to shine so that you could be in the place where you are today, doing exactly what you've been called to do and what you love the most. So I thank you all so much. Be blessed, and I will see you all again on August the 16th. Have a great night.